is Paul. Yes. hmm I'm just reading this dictionary and they have this word called submit. Yeah. To give into or surrender to another's authority. Submission. Yeah. Hmm. Now, submission is oftentimes used in a Christian context. Yes. As being submissive, as a wife should be submissive to her husband and allowing for the husband to be the head of the family. Oh, but there's another word called exploitation. To exploit means to a notable or difficult deed or act. The exploit, yeah. To use the best advantage of, to make use of in a selfish or unethical way. Now, quite often when you issue court orders, there's this expectation of submission. The court orders you to do something, and as a condition of that order, you have to be submitted to what the authority of the law is. Now let's look at the court orders that have been issued that I'm to be in submission of. Yes. Uh, you issued a court order on July 8th of 2011, where I wasn't a resident of the state of Washington. Yeah. My wife had made up a story on Guam that I had committed domestic violence and child abuse too. Now, I did 7 hours of parenting classes, and I wasn't the actual individual that committed the domestic violence too. But I had to be in submission to the conditions of the probation. And in that submission, I expected that when my probation was over, yes, my record would have been expunged. Yeah. And I would have been able to embrace my sons. Yes. I could father them. But when Heidi got here, there was what was known as the exploitation. Somewhat selfish. Yes, it was. And it was an exploitation of the domestic violence and child abuse laws in an unethical way. Now it's interesting, yes, the actual order that was given to me from the court on Guam was that I was to submit to the conditions of the protection order. Yes, that's why I was allowed to leave Guam and move back to Washington State. Now, in calling Healthy Families of Clallam County, asking them if they had the recommendations of the counselor about reconciliation, they alleged 20 days later that I had attempted to contact the petitioner through them. Yes, though of course she wasn't there on that day. And wanting to be submissive to the actual court order, I thought it was necessary that they would know. Yes, that the recommendation of the counselor that did the evaluation was marriage reconciliation. Now, what happened was there's known as exploitation. They spent approximately 20 days going around to the various government agencies. Yes. Filling out all the necessary documentation for my wife to file for dissolution of marriage. Yes. Pro se. Yes. Ex parte. Now, the problem is this was exploitation of the dissolution of marriage laws. Yes. See, there was this concept that we'll do all the paperwork first. Yeah. And then we're going to call the police and have Paul served and arrested. Yes. 20 days after the alleged incident when I called Healthy Families of Clallam County. Yes. That's called exploitation. Now, I think it's important that you understand the difference between submission and exploitation. Yes. Some women, they like it. I mean, they find it sexually stimulating to be submissive to a man. In their minds, they like the idea of a man, yes, helping them want to experience the sexuality of their individual persons. These are submissive women. They like it when the man suggests that they should be intimate. Yeah. Then there's the women that are exploitive. I had seen, well, numerous shows actually, but there was a woman named Olga, and I had watched most of the available Nazi exploitation movies where it was a selfish, unethical way that Olga obligated, yes, certain women that had been illegally imprisoned right now to submit to her authority in a very unethical and selfish way. Now, let's say we have two different kinds of sex puppet programming. We have the one side where there's the consent. Yes, I want you to mentor me. I want to be submissive to your ideas and what you have to say as a woman, and I think that I'm going to personally develop if I listen to what you have to say because of your personal life experience. Then we have Olga that has to use her sex puppet programming, yes, to exploit the weaknesses of women. Now, Olga